Marlene Sokol, education reporter for the Tampa Bay Times. I want to thank and welcome the viewers tuning into Tampa Bay Chamber's 2020 Virtual Candidate Forum Series. The Tampa Bay Chamber focuses on policy, not politics, and while they do not endorse, this forum serves as a means to make sure its members and the business community are informed on where candidates stand on issues that are important to business. Today, we're excited to have candidates for Hillsborough County School Board District 1. I'd like to welcome Nadia Combs and Steve Kona.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. We are just 6 weeks away from Election Day. Can you give us a brief 60 seconds or less update on your campaign and what message you want to deliver to voters in the final stretch? Starting with Ms. Combs.
Well, I'm really excited to be running for school board. I have thought about this for many years. I have been an educator for over 25 years. I was a teacher overseas in Japan, and I also taught in Hillsborough County schools. At that time, I was a team leader, a department head. I was a district trainer for new teachers. I created curriculum. I also was recognized as Hillsborough County Middle School Social Studies Teacher of the Year, as well as Franklin Middle School Teacher of the Year. I've been working with kids my entire life. After that, I provided after-school tutoring in over 18 districts in the state of Florida. I had over 300 teachers that worked with me. I provide after-school tutoring at the schools as well as at homes. After that, I opened a tutoring center, which I currently have, and I have 15 tutors that work with me. So my entire life has been working with children. I am a mother of 2 high school students in Hillsborough County Public Schools. I am running for school board because I want to advocate for students. I want to be a voice for students. Not only do I have an education background, but I also have a business background. I've built 2 businesses from the ground up. I was a product of the public school system. I moved to the United States when I was 8 years old. English wasn't even my first language. I was brought up by a single mother. I was on free and reduced lunch. So I feel like I really understand all students. I've worked very hard to advocate for students. I want to make sure that our students, our teachers, our administrators, our faculty, our voices are heard. And so that's why I'm running for school board. I know that I have the experience, the background, and knowledge to be a great voice in the school system. I think with so many changes occurring right now with COVID, with a brand new superintendent, we need somebody who not only has the business background, but also has the education and the foresight to understand what students are going through every day and what the schools are going through. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Kona.
Yes, everyone. Thank you guys very much for having us today. This is a great forum for discussion. And these forums are great because it gives us the opportunity to talk with everyone, even though we can't be face-to-face. So my name's Steve Kona. I currently serve as vice chair of the Hillsborough County School Board. I was elected in 2018. And ever since I've been elected, I've hit the ground running to be the biggest advocate for our schools. District 1 schools are thriving. We have, over 60% of our schools are Title I schools. And of those, 75% of them are A and B schools. 25% are C's, and there's no D and F schools in District 1. We've worked really hard to maintain a high standard. We hold the level of leadership and accountability, not only from your school board member, but from our district principals and our teachers is amazing, and we're doing really great things for our students. We have mainly a Hispanic population in District 1, and we continue to serve that population very well, and our schools in our town and country area are thriving. I'm very proud of the work that I've done in a very short period of time. We created a IB program at Alonzo High School that I'm very proud of that opens in August. And we have a great crop of candidates for that new IB school. So I'm excited to get that off the ground. We've expanded dual language programs and I'm really just getting started. We hired a new superintendent and now we're in election cycle, but we're also as a leader of the school district working through the pandemic and trying to get our schools reopened to get our kids back in school. And lots of challenges to be the incumbent, run a campaign, and make decisions for our district to get our kids back in school. So it's been a challenging time, but it's been very, very rewarding. And it's some of the most it's some of the most dynamic work that I've ever participated in, and I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish in a very short period of time.
Thank you. We're going to start with the most critical issues, and again, I'll start with Ms. Combs. If you could please tell us the 3 most pressing issues the next school board member will face, and how, if elected, you plan to address those issues. And I'll remind you, please try and keep your responses between 1 and 2 minutes, although that's going to be a challenge with these complex questions.
Well, obviously
Starting
the first challenge is COVID and the safety of our students and the safety of our staff, our teachers. I think we need to really look at what's happening with this pandemic, and we need to really consider possibly starting schools later and making a decision that's going to keep everyone safe. So that's the biggest issue, is really, when are we going to open schools, and what is that going to look like, and how are students going to be safe? The second part is really the e-learning. And that's why I think we need to have people on the school board. And I know, Steve Kona, you've done great things, but we need someone who has an education background. I have some really great innovative ideas. I mean, that's all I've ever done through my career, is worked on innovative learning, teaching strategies. We really need to learn on what we're going to do to fill these gaps. There are going to be students, the students who are the most at-risk students, those learning gains, those gaps are growing every day. Not only that, but students are on their screen time all the time for the last 6 months. So we really need to know what that e-learning is going to look like, how are we going to roll that out, and how are we going to serve our students? Either if they're at home or if they're at school, how are we going to make sure that every child is able to make gains? So that's the second one. And finally, the third one is the budget. I mean, we know on the news right now, there was a $50 million shortage. I mean, we're already going to lose a lot of money right now because of students not coming to school, possibly choosing Florida virtual school. I mean, how is that happening that we have a $50 million deficit? And even, Steve Kona, you're on the finance committee. I'm just wondering, where did that money go, and what's happening? So that is my concern: budget, legislation, making sure that we bring our kids. We need to make sure that Hillsborough County Public Schools is the first choice for parents. So we need to create those programs. We need to make sure there's accountability and transparency between charter schools. This is a time where I think charter schools and for-profit schools are going to try to grab more of our students. We need to make Hillsborough Public Schools the #1 choice for our students. So those are the top 3.
Thank you. Mr. Kona.
Marlene, can you ask the question one more time, please?
Yes, I'm sorry. And this is a hard one to answer in 2 minutes or less, but I'm asking, what are the 3 most pressing issues the next school board member will face, and how, if elected or re-elected, you plan to address those issues?
Okay, thank you. So first, the biggest problem with COVID is it has increased our achievement gap. The achievement gap is only getting wider, and that's going to be the #1 thing that all of us on the school board are going to focus on, is the achievement gap. I know that as a school board member, we've hired a superintendent that is an instructional leader. He's a turnaround expert, and we need to get him in a position to make the changes in our school district. I think he's gotten off to a great start, but COVID has widened the achievement gap, and that's something that we're all going to have to focus on. How we do that? We need to expand some of the programs that we haven't done a very good job of. Career and technical education has been lacking in our school district. We have pushed, and it's taken the private sector, me as part of Associated Builders and Contractors. I run one of the largest apprenticeship training programs in the country. I get a lot of people from the Hillsborough County School District that I have to remediate in math and geometry and all of the things that we need in the construction trade. So we need to push those career and technical education programs not only back into our high schools, which we've done. I've expanded those programs at Middleton and Lato, but we have to put those career and technical education programs now back into our middle schools, because that's where we can actually start making some real solid gains for our students. Second is financing. And you guys know, we watched the board meeting the other day. No one shies from the fact that this district has had a legacy of not allocating resources correctly. And as your school board member, I fought really hard. We are working to make sure that every single dollar we spent is pushed to the classroom, because we know that that's the best bang for our buck. And we are, for our school district, you're right, there is a $50 million shortfall. I'm not sure if it's going to be $50 million by the time the numbers are all finished, but we need to make sure that we are holding people accountable for our school district for doing the things that we don't believe are in the best interest of our students. And the third thing is, look, we have to get our kids back in school, and we have to get them back into school safely, and we have to provide them with the information that they need in their classrooms, and the teachers with the resources that they need to be successful.
Thank you. The next question concerns school business partnerships. Ms. Combs, can you describe your experience with school and business partnerships? How would you work with your colleagues and with Superintendent Davis to develop such partnerships?
Okay, as a business owner myself, where I've had 2 businesses, and even recently, I am very familiar with District 1. I provided after-school tutoring to the Title I students in 50% of the District 1 area right now. So I know it's really important for that community relationship. I have innovative ideas to bridge that. I think as a business owner I own my business in District 1. There are some businesses that I'm unable to have create a business partnership, and other ones that have been very easy. And I think that there needs to be some kind of uniformity with that. So that way we can go out and get the businesses to help support the schools. I know that with West Chase Elementary, I was very active. I was very active helping the STEM program. I was in there as a business owner, volunteering. So I think it's really important for, we have more schools, like more elementary, and we're always focusing on, districts schools that have issues. We need to uniformly look at every single school and see how we can bring businesses back into the schools, and how we can create that type of relationship with them. And I think having somebody who has that education background and someone who has a business background, where I built both of my business from the ground up. I didn't walk into a business that was already completed. I started from the ground up. So I think we need somebody like that who knows how to reach out to those businesses, reach out to those schools, and see what they need, and make sure that those schools receive that foundation and that support.
Hey, thank you. Mr. Kona, how would you work with Superintendent Davis and your colleagues to develop school and business partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, that's the future of our education system, is getting our businesses more involved. We need to get our healthcare industry more involved. We need to get our construction industry more involved. And that takes partnerships. So it takes folks from the private sector to actually invest in our schools. We've seen some successful projects. My Build Tampa Bay project with the construction industry. We have the largest career fair for students that are coming into the construction industry. We need to take that model and do it for healthcare. We need to take that model and do it for manufacturing. These are all partnerships that now that we have a superintendent on board, and and once we get through the COVID, we need to engage our business stakeholders and get them involved in our schools, because once we do that, it becomes a community issue, and then we can actually, these kids can actually not only see that what they're learning in school is relevant, but it also can lead to jobs, and also lead to actual businesses that will hire these students coming out of high school. So it's direly important
that
we get our business.
Oh boy.
I think you're just frozen.
Oh, okay. I'm unfrozen now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I think it's, I think it's vital that we get our businesses involved, and we've worked with the chamber. The chamber has a great workforce development program, and we need to keep engaging our businesses and make our schools the best place for our workforce pipeline.
Thank you. Let's shift to planning. Ms. Combs, briefly describe how you would go about collaborating on the development of a comprehensive 5-year plan for the district.
Okay, well, first of all, I think that we need to go out and talk to the voters. I mean, that we need to talk to parents, we need to talk to schools, we need to talk to every single person at the school. I think we're always looking at teachers, but we need to look at the paraprofessionals, we need to look at the custodians, the secretaries, the entire school, and then the community. And getting that information all together and work collaboratively with the superintendent. So I think knowledge is power. And I think when you have somebody who has that information, who has that strong education background. I mean, I have my master's degree in education, and I have my undergrad in education. So I have taught I taught in Japan, I've taught overseas, I've taught in the private sector, I've taught in the public sector. So I think when you have that kind of knowledge and that business background, it brings expertise to the superintendent. So when I'm there, for example, the other day when, we're passing millions of dollars of curriculum, I think you need to have somebody who knows and understands not just for proving things, but also understanding what exactly that means for students. So I think working collaboratively with the superintendent, I work very well with others, working with the rest of the school board, working with the administrators. I've already been out, just as a candidate. I've met with several of the principals. I sat down with Mr. Hart from Alonzo Middle School last week and spoke to him. What are the challenges you're facing? What do you need? So I think we need somebody like that. And when I'm going into a school, I'm really looking at the school from such a different perspective than Mr. Kona. I'm not looking at it just aesthetically. I'm looking at what the issues are. Why are there not learning gains? What is happening with discipline? What is happening with the collaboration amongst the community? So I think when you have that knowledge and then that you have that expertise, then you're able to work with the school board, you're able to work with the superintendent, and you're able to work with everybody downtown.
Hey, Mr. Kona, how would you go about collaborating to develop a comprehensive 5-year plan for the district?
I think I've been on record, Marlene, and you've covered a lot of school board meetings to know that I think a 5-year plan is too long. I think we don't have 5 years to develop a plan. I'm more of a short-term goal person. I don't agree with a 5-year plan. I don't do that in my business. I do short 3-year plans with 1-year goals that we have to achieve in those timeframes. Our students' education is too important to put a 5-year plan together. A lot of our students don't have 5 years for us to get things right. So it's important for us to set goals that we can attain in a school year. And I think one of the things that I've done as a school board member is I've been into every one of my schools multiple times. I have built relationships with every single principal in my district. I know the needs of our schools, but we need to continue to engage our stakeholders, our internal stakeholders and our external stakeholders, to come up with a plan that's going to move this district forward quickly, not in a 5-year span, but in a very short period of time. We have students that cannot afford a 5-year plan. We have students in our achievement schools that need help right now. And that's what our focus is going to be on, turning those schools around. And those kids can't wait 5 years. We have to instill a direction and a plan to get those kids on path right now, because no kid can wait.
I'm sorry about my phone ringing. Let me turn that off. Ms. Combs, my next question is about students with disabilities. If you could describe, please, your experience with and your philosophy regarding students with disabilities.
Okay, well, I have a personal experience with students with disabilities in my personal life, and I am very, very familiar with working with ESE students. I mean, I have attended so many IEP meetings. I often will through the center, I have often attended IEP meetings just completely because I care about children. I've actually attended IEP meetings at charter schools and have been shocked at the lack of support that those students are receiving. I mean, last year I probably attended 15 IEP meetings, so I am very familiar with the ESE students. Yeah. And I have attended IEP meetings mostly through District 1, but also in four charter schools. So I understand what is going on. I understand that students are not receiving the support they need, especially under what's going on with the pandemic. I really understand the challenges that parents face. Owning a tutoring center, probably 70% of the students that come to me are facing some type of challenge. So that's been my entire career, helping students. When I worked at Franklin Middle School, I worked with dropout prevention. When I worked at Davidson Middle School as a department head, I worked with the ESE population and I worked with the ESOL population. So my entire career has been helping students who have those, those challenges, either emotionally, socially, or academically. So I want to be a voice for those students and bring my knowledge back to support those families. Just yesterday, I had someone in West Chase tell me, people are forgetting about these 504 students and these IEP students. I actually went out and met with a woman and we discussed some of the challenges that she's facing, bringing her two, kindergartners who both have issues into the school. So I definitely have the background, the knowledge, and also the personal experience having one of my own children who has a 504. So I understand about advocating for all students, especially students who have IEPs and who have a 504 problems or 504.
And thank you, Mr. Kona.
Yeah, this has been an issue that's been near and dear to my heart. First of all, my daughter has an IEP and a 504 plan. And I know that it's been difficult for us to get the resources we need to help her be successful. We need to do better that, and we need to do better in that area. As an uncle of a child who's autistic, I know the challenges that my sister faces when, not getting the resources to help my nephew Alex. I get it. We need to do better. And one of the things that I would love to see us do, and something I'm going to push for in the second term, is I want to create a 6 through 12 district-run school for our autistic kids in Northwest Hillsborough County. We don't have anything like that in our school district. It's one of the things that's been near and dear to my heart. We've been looking for the right opportunities to do that. I think that this district needs to invest in our students with autism, because there's so many out there and we don't have enough schools that really help them, and we're not doing it in our traditional schools. So I'd like to see an autistic an autistic 6 through 12 freestanding program run by our school district, and I'm looking to make sure that we get that done in my next term.
Hey, thank you. Ms. Combs, turning to economic development, utilization of public-private partnerships is an asset for local governments around the country. What opportunities do you see in Hillsborough for public-private partnerships involving the schools?
Well, I think there's so many opportunities out there, and then we need to get those stakeholders out there and get involved in the business to bring them back to support. Because I without a doubt, any business, I'm just thinking of CABA, Carrollwood Area Business Association. I was very involved with that group. There's 400 businesses. They would love to support schools. When there were different events that I attended at Gaither High School. So we need to really make sure that we get those businesses back into the schools so that way they support each other. That's going to help a business. A business, when I go to different fall festivals, I see that we are able to support the school, and the businesses want to be supported by the families. So it is a very, very, easy communication together. You see it more elementary. I actually provided tutoring there for 8 years. Look at that community partnership and look what's happening in those schools. So I think we need to look at a broader field, and going into District 5. I think District 1 does so well because they do have that community type of relationship, and we need to kind of build on that by bringing new and innovative ideas to create more of that. And I think, we need somebody who has those innovative ideas, who has that background, who can think of ways to reach that community and bring the businesses back into the schools and the schools back into. And as I've mentioned, from the very beginning, we need to start at pre-K. And also, I am a very, very firm believer on the vocational and technical programs. And having those opportunities for kids all the way through is extremely important. And making sure that students have many different options from the community. Because it is much, I've always said, if we provide students those opportunities and that education, then they're going to flourish. If not, what happens? Those are the students that end up, getting in trouble, being incarcerated. So we really need to do what we need to do at the very beginning, and starting at the beginning. We don't want kids to come in kindergarten not feeling good about themselves and all the way through. So communities want to support that. Communities want to support, this is our future. Children are our future. And so that's why I'm running for school board, because I want to make a difference for our future.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kona, public-private partnerships.
Yeah, public-private partnerships. For a long time, our school district has worked in the silo. We're the largest landowner, the largest employer, and we do very little in the public-private partnership realm. And that is something that we need to work on. Look, we need to build schools. Why aren't we partnering with development, especially in District 5? I can tell you that we're the largest landowner in District 5. Why aren't we partnering with developers, with development, to actually come in there and, property share, build communities around our school locations, so that we can actually build those communities that we have in the West Chases and the Odessas. We have the ability to do that. We need, and as a board member, I've talked to a lot of different folks about partnerships, and we're going to continue that. But we also need somebody in our school district, and it might be somebody that we hire from the outside, to focus on public-private partnerships and development, so that we are not the only ones thinking about how we can make our schools better, but use the community, use our businesses to build around some of the schools that we already have. We are the largest landowner. We have the ability to really get creative when it comes to public-private partnerships, and I look forward to expanding that in my second term.
Okay, thank you. And I want to apologize if I looked at my phone. Work is blowing up.
No worries.
Hopefully it's not a huge story that we're missing, but let's talk about technology, which is so important, especially as we learned in COVID-19. So as technology becomes more integrated into learning, what sort of changes would you like to see schools make to become more technologically advanced? And starting again with Ms. Combs.
Okay, well, I think technology is very, very, very important. And there's a lot of things that we need to do, but also we need to create a balance with technology. I am concerned, that our students are on all the time now watching shows, Netflix. So we need to make sure that we're using technology to advance, educational practices. So we need to look at we need to make sure that students have access to those computers, that the students who need it the most are the students who don't have access to the computer and don't have access to the internet. So I think from a very young age, we need to teach healthy practices with technology. We need to teach children how to use technology, how to keyboard, how to look at information, how to learn through educational websites. However, we also need to balance it out so that way kids are not just so addicted to the computers that they're not using paper and pencil and books and things like that. We need to use, we should have used technology more for this e-learning process. The last 4 months of school, students did not learn anything. I did see some schools where there was a collaboration and teachers would upload their lessons. That was one of the reasons that I ended up running, because as an owner of a tutoring center, I saw private schools that had amazing technology all the way through and that students were learning. And then some of our students were never able to even get online to get any lessons. So those gaps are just huge. So I think we need to make sure that there's access to a computer to every single child. They have access to the internet, and that we have access to good programs that are going to provide the learning with students. We also need to really be careful about, technology being in the school so much where it's disruptive, with phones and things like that. There are some challenges that schools face with that. So we need to use technology in a healthy way and also make sure that it's accessible to every single child in our district.
Thank you. And Mr. Kona, technology.
Yeah, the one thing that COVID has exposed is how woefully behind we are in technology. That's why Addison Davis, our new superintendent, hired an IT whiz, and I am so excited that we're going to have an IT whiz that's going to provide not only IT infrastructure, but a real plan for IT moving forward. Because, the minute you buy a laptop, it's already outdated. So there has to be a strategy when you send technologies to schools. You have to keep recycling and getting these computers upgraded. I will tell you that in West Chase, in the West Chase area, the West Chase schools, you would think that they'd have the highest in computers. They don't. They're woefully behind in technology. Wow. And while some of our Title I schools who have Title I money have one-to-one devices, it's not a level playing field, and we need an IT strategy and implement that strategy with fidelity across the whole district and continue to upgrade that. Lots of things we can do. It needs to happen. But like Ms. Combs said, and I agree with her on this, technology is not the only answer, because we need powerful instruction in our classrooms and use technology as a resource, not a crutch in this particular time. But we're woefully behind, and I can tell you that with the sales tax referendum, technology is one of the things that we can invest in. And once our new IT person comes up with that IT infrastructure, we're going to deliver for our students, and I can't wait for that to happen.
Thank you. Let's shift to staff recruitment. And with some of these questions, obviously we're in a very unusual time. Teachers are weighing, what it's going to be like to go back to school. In terms of recruiting teachers, Governor DeSantis recently signed into law, a minimum salary for beginning teachers, which many have appreciated. But there's more to recruiting good teachers for the schools. And so, Ms. Combs, what policies would you like to bring forth to get good teachers in front of the students?
Okay, it's not just getting teachers, it's keeping teachers. And
retain, that's part of the question.
Challenge is, now we have a great starting salary. We also have to remember those teachers who've been there 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, after I remember with my master's degree, I was a department head, I was a team leader, and I think I was making $500 more than a brand new teacher. I mean, that's a challenge. It's very frustrating for teachers to feel that way. So I think really, you don't go into teaching and you don't go in for the money. So we need to create an atmosphere and schools that are positive, that we're supporting teachers. I see over and over some of the young tutors that work with me, they go in there, they're very excited about teaching. After a couple of years, they're inundated with testing. They're inundated. I mean, it's great that we're providing new online programs, but it's just more and more testing, more and more paperwork for the teachers, more meetings. So teachers are not able to teach and they feel frustrated because all the planning time is used on paperwork. So we really need to create classrooms and schools that have a positive atmosphere, a positive community. And that's by hiring great leaders and also providing support, and then having people out in the community support those teachers. It's really, really important that I think people got a taste of it with COVID. Parents were like, wow, this is really challenging to teach my child. Well, how about that with 25 students and some with behavior issues and some who are high functioning and some students who are barely reading. So I think we need to support those teachers, not just the first couple years like we do, but we need to support them all the way through. We need to show that we value our teachers by paying teachers who are there longer, more money. We need to really make sure that the atmosphere in the classroom is positive and that we get support from our community, our parents, and the rest of the administrators at the school. So it's just hiring teachers and keeping teachers positive 25 years in, 30 years in, so they know that they're valued. That's really important, that teachers know how important they are and how valued they are in our community.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kona, how do we attract and retain good teachers?
Well, I think you attract teachers by obviously the starting salary helps, but that's one component. People don't go into teaching because they're going to become millionaires. People go into teaching because they love kids. So what we have to do is we have to provide the teachers, and with all the schools I've gone to and visited and talked to teachers, the one thing that is the common denominator is teachers want the resources they need to be successful, and they want the resources that they need in the classrooms. And as your school board member, I was getting a call here as well. Sorry. As the school board member, one of the things I fought for is I would like to see a more robust medical and benefit package for our teachers. Right now, our teachers, they get insurance free, but for them to put their families on our insurance, it's unaffordable. So I'd like to continue to work with our administration to create a plan that we can that teachers can insure their families on. Because I think that's another way to help retain, is to have a robust benefit plan that not only supports the teacher, but supports the teacher's family as well. So that's one of the things I've been working on. We're trying really hard to get that resolved, but obviously we have to work with a lot of stakeholders. But resources in the classroom are the one thing that the teachers need. They need to go to an environment where they feel comfortable teaching and have the resources they need to be successful.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'd like to ask about equity, and both of you have touched on this issue a little bit already in your remarks, but Ms. Combs, how would you lead existing Hillsborough County schools to make changes in systems and processes and approaches to close the achievement gaps?
Okay, well, we need to get our best teachers out in those schools. I mean, there's no question about that instruction is number one, and also class size and creating communities that are going to support that. I know that for myself, at the beginning of my career, I taught at Franklin Middle School. I taught a dropout prevention program, and this was many years ago when it was probably the most high-risk school. So there were 20 students. If you stream through my Facebook, you will find 5 or 6 of those students who have reached out to me recently. Because what we did was we created an environment and a classroom where students felt supported. They felt that they were cared about. We need to start at the very beginning by leveling the playing field in the VPK programs. That is very important, that we make sure that when students walk into kindergarten, that they're all in the same playing field. Instead, you find students some who are reading, and some who are still having difficulty with letter recognition. So we need to level that playing field. I think if students feel supported, then they're going to feel confident. If they feel capable, they're going to be able to produce in the classroom instead of being a classroom management. The biggest thing that teachers face, or one of the issues, is classroom management issues. So we need to create an atmosphere where there's respect with the students and the teachers. We need to make sure that we're putting money into those schools and putting support with the community in those schools, and having our teachers, often our brand new teachers are the ones who are entering those schools. That's who we're attracting. And the number one thing I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter how great of an instructional leader you are, if you do not have classroom management and you are not able to have respect in that classroom, you are unable to teach. So we really need to make sure that we have our seasoned teachers, that we provide instructional approaches, that we provide the resources that teachers need. And we need to really look at the different variables of students. I am so tired of teaching to the test. If a child is in 3rd grade and they're reading at a 2nd grade level, why are we instructing them on that 3rd grade level? That is going to create larger achievement gaps. It's going to create more disruption in the classroom, and it's not going to help students. And then furthermore, we also need to create more hands-on learning for students. It's time that we stop having students sit in class all day long from one lesson to another. We need to create students who have a love of learning. And if we do that, then we're going to be able to have students who are excited. And then we have to create more opportunities for students in middle school and high school, technical, vocational programs, AP enrollment, dual enrollment. We are losing so much money to charter schools when we have so many great programs, but parents don't know. So we really need to go out there and work with those students who have the biggest gaps and need the most help by supporting them, by creating smaller classes, by providing more support, and creating a school where is conducive to learning.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kona, how do we close the achievement gaps? What processes, what approach?
So I will tell you, you can look at District 1 as a model. We have a lot of our schools, 90+% free and reduced lunch. What we've done in District 1 is a little bit different than what's happening in District 5. We provided wraparound services to our students in those schools. You look at Town and Country, there's a Boys and Girls Club right next door that takes the kids early in the morning, helps them with their homework, and it's there after school as well. I'm a big proponent for pushing Tallahassee for mandatory VPK. I think it's a worthy investment. I think if we spend a lot of resources up front, we're going to save a lot of money on the back end remediating students and closing that pipeline to prison, because I think that's the most important thing. We have to get these students in as early as possible. So I would love for the state and to work with our state leaders to have mandatory PKs in our schools. The earlier that we can get those students, the more wraparound services that we can provide, keeping those students in the school environment for as long as possible. That's the only thing that's going to take these schools to the next level. And we've done that in pieces, but we need to do that district-wide.
Thank you. Okay, so both of you, we've touched on some very important policies, but before we wrap up, is there a priority that you have not had a chance to discuss that you would like to reemphasize? And again, I'll start with Ms. Combs.
Well, what I'd like to reemphasize is really to make sure that we start early with our students with VPK, and that we provide the programs and options for students. You know, I am tired of seeing parents, go to charter schools that are subpar to Hillsborough County schools and go there for a couple years and then come back to Hillsborough County schools and our students behind. The way we're going to be able to bring funding back is by making sure parents know that Hillsborough County schools are the best choice for our students. So we need to make sure that we focus on instructional approaches, that we make sure that our students end up receiving individualized instruction for what they need. There's not going to be a one size fits all. I mean, it's really difficult that, on day 5, this is where a 4th grade teacher should be. I mean, that's really difficult because we're leaving students behind. And if we leave students behind, then we're going to have more problems in the future. So I think that the most important thing is making sure that our students are safe, to making sure that our students have a love of learning, making sure that we have instructional approaches and instructional support for our students so that way that they're making gains. And then throughout the time as they process through middle school, middle school and high school, that they do have options of hands-on learning, that we do have vocational and technical programs. Sure, we have some in District 1, but it's far, for schools like Leto and Alonzo, there are so many programs that they need. There should be a mechanical program in Alonzo. I talked to Mr. Hart. There should be, a culinary program that's feeding. A lot of those students are coming from Davidson and they're feeding to Alonzo. Those are easy fixes that should be out in the community. So we need somebody who's going to go out in the community, who has that education background, who has that business background, who's going to come in and support our schools. So that is really part of my vision.
Okay, Mr. Kona, I'm sorry, I saw your face flash again, but what final issue would you like to either introduce or re-emphasize?
Yeah, I think we're going to close the achievement gap. I think that we hired an instructional leader in this district, and the focus of this entire school district is we can no longer tolerate failing schools. That's the number one issue. We have to fix that because we're better than that. Our teachers are better than that. Our administrators are better than that. And it's unacceptable for us to have any DRF schools in this school district. I'm proud of the work that's been done in District 1. We have no failing schools. I'm the person that I go to a school, and if I feel like I will let my kids go to that school. In District 1, I will let my kids go to any single school in my school district. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of what we've built there because look, we don't have an easy population, and we are setting the standard for our school district. And we just need to incorporate some more things like mandatory VK, more wraparound services, partnering with our programs like the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, Brandonson Aquatic Center. We have to build those wraparound services in the communities that need it the most. And once we do that, the sky's the limit for our school district. I totally agree. Career and technical education, that's my job. That's my life. Building the future workforce is something that is something I'm very proud of, and we're going to do more of it. I will tell you that Leto not only has an electrical program, but it also has a culinary program that's the best, one of the best in the nation. So we're going to expand those programs. Obviously, that takes resources and funding. And as your school board member, I'm probably one of the we have a good group of school board members that really work with our legislative delegation to bring funding back to our school district. And we're going to work really hard to ensure that we have the funding available for our school district that we can make these changes. But number one, we have to get rid of our DNF schools. It's unacceptable for any of those schools to be failing. So that's the first step.
Okay, thank you. And we've covered a lot of ground here. My final question, starting again with Ms. Combs, is where can voters go to learn more about your campaign and your position on the issues that are important to them?
Okay, well, I want to say there's never been a more important time ever in our history with a pandemic, with e-learning, with all the challenges that we're facing. There's never been more important time for people to really go out and pay attention to who's going on the school board. We really need somebody who has an education background. I mean, we need someone with a brand new superintendent, with new curriculum rolling out, with going in knowing that we're $50 million short. We need somebody who knows education, who knows business. And so that I am that person. So people can find me through votenadiacombs.com, or they can reach me 813-263-2088. I am a hands-on type of person. I know what our schools need. I know businesses, I know schools, and I know students.
Thank you. Mr. Kona, where can people go to learn more about why they should re-elect you?
Yes. Thank you, Marlene, and thank you for hosting this today. Steve, go to votestevekona.com. You can find out everything you need to know about my campaign. I'm very proud of the work that I've been able to accomplish in a very short period of time in District 1. My biggest resources is, if you want to know how I'm doing as a school board member, ask your principal, ask your teachers, and ask your students, and ask your parents. they'll see that I've touched every single school in my school district. I've done things that, I am the biggest advocate for every single one of our schools, and anybody has to ask, and I will make sure that I'll do my best to get them the resources they need. And I feel like I've accomplished a lot in a very short period of time, and I'm looking forward to a 4-year term. Thank you.
Okay. Well, on behalf of the Chamber's 1,400 members and its board of directors, we want to thank you for joining us today and for your willingness to serve in an elected office. This concludes our forum.